Let me begin this review by telling a story. Now, this was years ago, and I was looking to buy my first luxury watch, and I had never spent over $1,000 on one watch before. It was a significant milestone to cross that threshold, and I was a little nervous in doing so. But I bought the Brosnan Bond era Seamaster with the blue wave dial, the skeleton hands, the bracelet, and I was over the moon. I was so thrilled with that purchase. I thought I was really getting a lot for my money. So even though I was going a little bit outside my comfort zone in terms of price, I just ended up being very satisfied with that purchase. Now, I say that because a lot of watch collectors, they feel similarly with this modern version of that watch. So here we have a blue wave dial, a blue bezel, the skeleton hands, the lyre style lugs, the helium release crown up at the 10 o'clock position, and that 5 link bracelet design. The retail price on this one is $5,600, which is a significant amount of money. And the first time luxury buyer, that might be a little bit outside their comfort zone. But when they pull the trigger, and a lot of them pull the trigger on this SMPC, the Seamaster Professional Ceramic, they end up being very satisfied with the overall product, and they feel like, they got a great deal. They're getting a lot for how much they spent, even though that amount is significant for the individual. Now, this modern blue version, it pays homage to that first Brosnan Bond Quartz Seamaster, of which that was my first luxury watch. And I feel that this design is important because Omega, they had some pretty terrible days, some pretty dark days when it comes to the Seamaster. So I think a lot of the 1970s, certainly the 1980s, and the early portion of the 1990s, the design really had no focus and it went in every which way. And again, I don't think it was the Seamaster's best years. And it wasn't until that Bond Quartz Seamaster that Omega really honed in on the design and did something original that really resonated with with the watch market. So I like this design, and it's even funner that this modern version is slightly larger, and it's very different. It's very shiny, it's very sleek, it's very contemporary, but at its heart, it's still the same watch, and that's important. So let's talk about the details here, and we will start with the dial. This is a ceramic dial that is, it has actually a laser engraved wave pattern that is scaled up. So it's not a direct continuation of that micro wave pattern found on that first Bond Seamaster. And I like that distinction. And I really like these massive markers. And they feel a little bit bigger because of the reflectivity of this ceramic dial. So they appear large, and then the lume is domed in its fill. So I mean, these markers really stand off of the plane of the dial. They grab your attention, they reflect light. Even the sheen on the lume in natural light has a slight reflective finish. And then you go into a low light situation and you notice the bitone lume. It's green and cyan and looks very nice. So very satisfying in low light conditions. And then in natural light, I find the watch very legible. Some people complain about these skeleton hands, but I haven't had any issues. They're wide, they flare out, they have a nice bevel and a nice finish. So I really like the skeleton hands. And I think if this had sword hands, it just wouldn't be the same, right? We're trying to pay homage to that original Bond design, and I think you have to go with the skeleton hands. Now let's talk about the crystal. I mentioned the lyre style lugs or the twisted lugs. I really like this look. I like the good mix of brush work and polish work. I like the fact that this has an open case back with a very respectable in-house movement within. And let's talk about this movement. So what we have here is called the 8800 coaxial caliber from Omega. This will have 35 joules and beats 25,200 times every hour. So it's not as smooth as a 4 hertz movement, but it's not as noticeably jumpy as a 3 hertz movement would be. This will have 55 hours of power reserve, a free-sprung balance, a silicone hairspring, a full balance bridge design, and I really like this machine arabesque finishing. To me, this is quintessential modern Omega, and I really like the look. The best part about the movement, though, comes down to the 2 certifications that it goes through. So when it's just the movement only, it's COSC certified, and then Omega cases it up, and it is certified by the Swiss Federal Institute of Metrology, or METIS, and that has very intense tests, 8 different tests that test the water resistance, test the magnetic resistance, and it tests the accuracy in a number of different positions and temperatures and levels of power reserve. So it's quite exhaustive, and it has to pass with flying colors with an acceptable daily deviation accuracy window of 0 to plus 5 seconds per day. So again, I love the fact that you can see the movement. I love the architecture and finish of the movement, and I love the specifications of the testing that these watches go through. So I find that pretty impressive. Now let's talk about the crystal. We have a domed sapphire crystal with dual applied anti-reflective treatments. And so yes, you can scratch that top layer. I've never had that happen on the 2 different Seamasters that I've bought in the years since this has been on the market, but it is possible. But the best part is you have excellent clarity, and that really helps with such a dynamic dial with all of the shine and visual interest found throughout. Now, let's talk about the bracelet, and in doing so, we'll talk about the negative elements of the watch. So although I'm favorable on this piece, like a lot of other watch collectors are, it does have its warts, and they mostly come to the bracelet. Now, this is a 5-link design. It's non-tapering. They're fairly thick links, and then we have a very large milled clasp. In fact, the clasp is 43.5 millimeters in overall length. So if you like a hefty watch, a dominant watch on wrist, you will absolutely love this piece on the bracelet. I think it looks the best on the bracelet as opposed to the strap or the mesh, but you really have to have the wrist and the appetite to pull this off without getting fatigued from time to time. So I want to point that out. This is a hefty, tall, thick bracelet and clasp, and some collectors really just don't like that. The other thing I want to talk about is the fact that your scalloped bezel just doesn't allow for great grip. It's still functional. It's still fine. I'm kind of nitpicking here, but especially if you are wearing diving gloves, it can be difficult to grip, and I want to make a mention of that. But overall, this is easily, in my opinion, one of the top luxury options at around $5,000. And I think if you might be on the fence about this, it might be a little bit outside your comfort zone price-wise, I think if you do it and you pull the trigger, you're going to feel like I did. You're going to feel excited about this watch when you finally do it. And you'll be very happy because, again, it is very well-rounded. It does have some warts, yes, but on the whole, it's very strong. Even coming down to the box that it ships in, a lacquered wood presentation box, much nicer than other brands that charge quite a bit more for competing watches. So that being said, if you are looking for an Omega, I'm going to recommend Exquisite Timepieces in Naples, Florida. Reach out to Joe or Graham or Tyler or Nick. They have really great customer service there in Naples, Florida. I'll place links in the description of the video. Reach out with any questions you may have. Thank you for watching today. I appreciate it. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you next time.